Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
When Rabbis Rosenfeld and Taylor invited me to chair this discussion with today's guest, Gerald Ronson, I readily accepted, as Gerald is more than just a fellow congruent and a leading businessman and a community leader, but is a long-standing family friend. He and my mother-in-law, Ruth Phillips, can trace their friendship more than 70 years back when they both terrorized the suburb. And you, Gerald, and my late dad played an active role in the fight against fascism in the 60s and 70s. And even many years ago, two of your daughters were bridesmaids at our wedding. And of course, we both have CST coursing through our veins. But it's fair to say that we haven't done this before. And this Q&A is probably the longest conversation that you and I have had together. So welcome and thank you. But more importantly, Gerald, how have you got on in this whole COVID crisis? Because you're a fellow who likes to be very active.
Yeah, well, it's been very frustrating for 9 weeks that I was in lockdown, and I've been back at work actually a fortnight today because there was only so much I could take in lockdown, as the business, which is my main business today, which is Rontec, which is my roadside retail business, where I employ 3,500 people. That's a business that has been operating 24/7 through this whole period of time. And normally I'm out in the field a couple of days a week. But obviously, in that 9 weeks I was in lockdown, I wasn't. But since I've been back, I visited over 50 sites over the last 2 weeks, up and down the country. And I must say my management team have done an excellent job of work. I think that I'll be redundant very shortly. The board will say, that's enough and thank you, goodbye.
Well, as we own
the business 100%, so it's all good. All good.
Good. Well, I know how it feels to not earning money at the moment. But then more important, onto a wider subject, you're going up and down the country. How do you see this country and the world recovering from this crisis?
With great difficulty. I think we have no idea, certainly the politicians don't, in terms of the seriousness, in terms of the economy, as we hopefully will come out of this without having a second basin of it. I think there's going to be a lot of unemployment. I think the dangerous thing, and I think we begin to see a bit of it as to what we've seen with the black community, with regard to how this can develop with our old brigade of fascists who are anti-everything. So I see problems that we have to be prepared for. Before it was intellectual anti-Semitism with Corbyn and co, but this is now a different shape leading to all these fascists, these extreme right-wing people who we know are certainly not our friends. In fact, when I see the activity in the streets over the last few days with the police, this reminds me of when I was involved in fighting fascists, which is now some 60 years ago, when I was part of the late 43 group, and then we developed, of course, Jacob, which was the Jewish Aid Committee of Britain, which your father was on the main board of and was very active. And it's a different game. And if you then put the intellectual anti-Semitism with the fascist fighting in the streets, then I'm afraid to say that's not a good thing for the Jewish community, because we will get drawn into it. But we have to be prepared, and that is something which CST is prepared for. Do we have the same sort of army as what we had? I think we've shrunk over 60 years, even in size. But it's a different world. The police were defending the fascists if we go back 60 years ago. Now, the police we work very closely with Home Office, government, etc., etc. Things move on, but it won't be good for our community, whichever way it goes. And, we saw the stabbing of a rabbi in Stamford Hill recently. I can't say too much about it because I don't want to go into details on the particular situation. But you know, the community is going to have to take this very seriously.
And as we're both involved, CST are up and ready and geared up to deal with whatever challenges are thrown at it.
Well, you know, we employ 105 full-time people in CST. We have 2,500 trained volunteers, but as I say, the world's moved on, and we're not fighting the police. The police themselves are going to have to decide what action they're taking, because so far they're not charging anybody really, and they're not also getting involved in the physical battle. But I don't think they'll be standing on the sidelines for much longer, and that's when it all gets very dangerous.
It's a depressing thought. Now, you wrote a book a few years ago which says "Leading from the Front," and that's really what you've been renowned for your entire working and communal career. But do you want us to go back to the beginning? How did it all start? Where did you get that drive?
Well, the family business, my father was a very successful furniture manufacturer, and we had a factory in Islington, and we employed just under 500 people. I used to go to the factory when I left school at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I went to Clark's College in Cricklewood, and I used to go to the factory. I mean, it was something that was in my blood, and I couldn't wait to get out of school, stroke education, and actually start work. And that I did actually. In those days, you could leave at 15 years of age, but I actually left at 14 and a half. I would remind people, don't forget the half. And I started sweeping sawdust off the floor. Then we were in the furniture business, which we then built a factory in Harold Hill, Romford, which I was very much involved in. And my father said to me, this property business looks a lot easier business than knocking yourself out manufacturing, employing 500 people. The unions were just starting in the furniture business per se, from the factory point of view. And the retailers really, 2 or 3 controlled the market in terms of buying. So he said, I remember him telling me over breakfast, he said, we're coming out of the furniture business. I must have been about 17, and we're going to go in the property business. And that's where it all began for me in the property business, which is something like 62 years, which I've been in the property business. And I've built something like 68 towns through the United Kingdom, up to town centres and Sunderland, Hoddesdon, biggest one being Cardiff town centre. House building, built over 15,000 homes. And that was going from that period up to the period of 90.
Yeah.
And
but
go on, you were
just alluding that the fact that over your career you've built town centres and office blocks, and culminating probably in your city tower this last few years.
Well, more so than that, because I was the first British developer to go into Europe, and most probably in 9 countries I've built, in France, Spain, Italy, Germany, Ireland, America, and I think and Belgium. I don't know, I think I left that one out. So, you know, I've been most probably one of the most active developers of the generation that is left in the business, which there are, in fact, very few developers that have built anything like the amount of buildings that I've been responsible for. So, yes, I've been pretty active in that business all my life. But I did start, and I went into the petrol retailing business, which was 53 years ago. And I have built over 1,000 petrol stations in the UK. We don't call them petrol stations anymore. We call them roadside retail, because they have large stores, etc., etc. And of course, the profit is really in the retailing element rather than the fuel. And I've built over 1,000. I've built 150 in America. It's been very exciting. It's had its good times, its bad times, but it's never let me down. And the great thing about it is 2 words: cash flow. And that is the most important thing. The problem is everybody in a property business always over borrows, and you never want to owe the banks too much money. I made that mistake when I had a reconstruction Heron back in '92, and you learn your lessons from your mistakes. If you don't, you're an idiot. And then you rebuild, but you don't make the same mistakes. You make sure cash flow, cash flow, cash flow.
Exactly, it never sleeps. You mentioned that a significant part of your business interest now invested in the foundation. And bearing in mind this interview and our host and so on, first of all, what does your Jewish identity mean to you? Particularly as you've been so involved in education in the UK and in Israel, and you're even now working on the Holocaust Memorial and Learning Centre next to Parliament. You know, what are your priorities now?
Well, my priorities are in the developing of my foundation, which will be when I die, if not already. I think we're the 19th largest foundation, charitable foundation in the United Kingdom. But I do want the foundation, and hopefully I'm going to be around for a few years to come. I want it to be one of the largest in the Jewish community, because 80% of the money that we give from the foundation, and it's public knowledge, people can see what our accounts are, has to go to Jewish causes. And the Jewish causes really are across the board. It's and mainly education, welfare, and most probably 50% of the money we give away, because currently we've got something like 9 projects on in Israel. So it's a balance, it's 50-50, because the amount of money we give away, you couldn't give. There aren't enough things in the UK to absorb the money. We gave away last year £10.25 million, and each year we give more and more. So it's got to be things that appeal to us. On the educational side, it's more of the underprivileged, not the overprivileged. And especially in Israel, where I've got something like 9,000 children every day go to schools that we're building, and there are a lot of projects which are in the pipeline, which are mainly in helping the underprivileged. Doesn't mean
and helping matching ability with opportunities. You say they're underprivileged, but they're entitled to education leading to employment, which is what we all want.
Education is very important, because if you don't have education and you don't give people from a poor background, single family backgrounds, the opportunity to have a job, as you know from your Alt connections and your history with the Alt schools, you know, we built 3 major Alt schools. We've got another major project in the pipeline, which I think is a very interesting project. You know more about it most probably than I do. Yes, this is important. It's important to see people to be able to develop their self-esteem, self-respect, to be able to earn a living with their hands. Not everybody's going to be a rocket scientist. Not everybody's sitting there with a computer in front of them all day long. In fact, when I was laid down, because I don't have an iPhone and I don't have a computer, even though I bang out 150 emails a day on my dictating machine, and they're typed, and I see the bits of paper when they come in, and those most probably 120 of them go through the shredding machine. But I did learn to use my iPad. I couldn't set up a Zoom call even now. I couldn't do it, because I'll be quite frank with you, it's not how I am as a person and what I'm used to doing. But you know, when you have to learn and you got the time and you're sitting the tone, you can play with it and you can, you know, dictate little notes. But I don't use the for dictating. I can read the emails coming in on the machine, but I dictate my replies, and the tapes went twice a day to my PA, Kay, who was working as per normal. I'm sure
I've received some of those emails. They're quite short and pithy.
I'm sure it's all very good, and technology, but maybe if people focused, and in terms of business, that you are there, you're in your business, you can smell it, you can feel it, if you have that commitment. And also, if you're an active chairman, stroke, I'm not managing director of the business because I've got a very capable management team there, but they're very good from an operational point of view. But you've got to think wider, and you've got to have that focus, that commitment, and that dedication. I mean, both of those businesses are in my DNA.
Yeah.
I'm not doing a lot of development today because maybe I had the vision to see what was going to happen in the property business, especially the retail elements, and also to an extent the residential. But my interview isn't to give a philosophical review of the property business.
No, but leading on from that, though, and talking about before, education and employment, there'll be a few people watching this thing who are starting out in life, and they'll come to you for mentoring, directly or indirectly, and they want some advice. How would you steer them in this rather troubled and complicated world that we live in now?
Well, I think it helps if you've got at least a half an idea what you want to do, whether in a property business or the retail business or any business if it comes to that. Because what is important is you have to love what you're doing. You've got to have then that focus, commitment, dedication, and that drive. And there are no quick wins in business today. Business today is difficult, tough. I couldn't tell a young man what the direction he should go in. All I can say to a young man, if he's intelligent and he's got half an idea, or a woman, what they want to do, then I can give them a bit of guidance. But to really be successful, as you know, I work 6.5 days a week. I don't do it because I need the money. I've done it all my life. I love creating business. I love doing what I do. And I've had some difficult periods in my life that some of the people who are listening in will know about, especially if they've read my autobiography. And I did that book not for my ego. I did that book for the benefit of my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, because they're all going to benefit, which is not the greatest idea in the world. But I'm stuck with trusts and things which I created 30 years ago. In fact, 65 is my first trust, because I always believed I was going to make a lot of money. Now, definition is what is a lot of money, and we won't go down that road. But I had the confidence in myself. But you build confidence. You build confidence by what you do, what you understand in your business. If you're an idiot, it's very hard to get your confidence. And there are an awful lot of idiots out there, and an awful lot of idiots out in the property business. That I can tell you. I walk into a room, a cocktail party, where it's McAlpines or CBRE or whoever it may be, and I think, look at what this industry has become.
Yeah.
So I'm an old man. I'm 81 years of age. I've had a lot of experience. I've had a lot of issues in my life. I'm blessed with a great wife who I met when she was 19, and I've been married 53 years. I've got 4 daughters. I've got 9 grandchildren. And, that's nice. Important, because that's family. And family values are what makes us Jews. I am going to say a word which I perhaps wouldn't do if I was having an interview on the BBC, but I do believe that Jews, because of their education, because of their background, because of our insecurities, we work harder, we try harder, we have values of philanthropy, etc., etc. And these are the things which make us, because we're only a small community here in the United Kingdom, most probably half of what most people think. In fact, in some instances, people think there's 5 million Jews. Well, we know they're lucky if there's 350,000, if you can find them. But we have developed our culture over hundreds of years, and that's in our soul. That is inside what we are. You know, if people say to me, you know, you're Jewish and why this, why that, you know, I'm lucky, and I don't know if the rabbi's listening, he's lucky if he sees me in the shul 2, maybe 3 times a year. However, do I say my Shema every morning? Believe it or not, I do. I don't lay to fill it, but I do have my little words with the good Lord. Do I believe in God? Yes. Am I going to go into deep intellectual discussion on it? No. But I'm a very proud Jew. I have to defend my community. I have to be a good philanthropist and do what I can, whether it be Jewish care, whether it be education, security,
well, you're right.
and Israel. They are the 4 legs of our community and being a Jew.
Exactly. And as you said, if we don't do it for ourselves, nobody else will do it for us. Now, tell me, this is as we're nearing the end of this thing. You've gone through your life, you've gone through the philanthropy, you've gone through the business life. What would you regard as your greatest achievement and the proudest moments so far? And also, being a bit more, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, I don't think too much about how I'm going to be remembered, because the important thing is what you do in your lifetime, not what somebody's going to put on your gravestone. I think that it's part of what you are as a person and what you can do. I think in terms of the most important projects to me in my life was the creation of CST as it is today, because I created it from Gret to CST, from Jacob, etc., etc. And I have that responsibility of the security of our community from the left to the right. And I'm very proud of the organisation that I've built in terms of relationship with government, police, politicians, etc., etc. And the project which stands out of all the projects that I have built and developed, both in Israel and here, is JCOS School, which is one of the most successful Jewish schools, in fact, one of the most successful schools of its kind in the United Kingdom. And, there's nearly 1,400 children go there. And to me, that gives me a lot of satisfaction. And thirdly, and these things I think are all equal to one another, is I've built a major foundation for myself, and that will maintain the legacy of the Ronson name, the Ronson family, because all my daughters, as you know, because you know them all, they're all involved in different things. I try and, well, I have done, I've encouraged them really from when they were young girls, today they're women of 50 years of age, to understand that it's what you do for your community to help those that need help, welfare, looking after the aged, security we've already spoken about, and these legs are important because there's nowhere to hide. If you're going to lead from the front, then you've got to lead physically, financially, and as an individual.
It's well, Gerald, first of all, thank you for that. And also, more importantly, you said you're proud to be a Jew. The Jews are proud to have you as well, because as you said, over your long career, you've been there when it counted, and that's an important legacy. If you want to know how you're going to be remembered in your lifetime, you've left an enormous footprint right across our community and across the business world. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your guidance and tuition. And thank you for being our friend.
Thank you.
Thank you.